Hello, my name is Kristen Bolden, and I'd like to welcome you to The Other Side of History. Now, in our last talk in this series, we talked about Jesus doing the miracle at the wedding feast, where he turned water into wine. And I really do love the miracle stories in the Bible. Another wonderful miracle story that's in the Bible is the story of Daniel and the lion's den. Now, when Daniel was thrown into that den, he was not alone with those hungry lions. An angel of God was also with him. In the presence of that angel visitor, those lions, they were as timid and self-controlled as little kittens. The next morning, Daniel was able to tell the king, "My God hath sent his angel and hath shut the lions' mouths, that they have not hurt me." End of quote. So the king, he commanded that Daniel be taken from the den, and he was removed without a scratch on him. His enemy said that the lions did not touch him because they were not hungry. "If so," the king said, "they will not hurt you if you are lowered into their presence." The command was given, and before we're told they reached the bottom, they were torn to pieces. In this talk, I would like to give you another miracle story, a story of deliverance. So the story is from a book. It is titled The Hand That Still Intervenes, and it's by Spicer. Now, two men, they got into an argument at a tavern in a little country town. One man was badly beaten by the larger, meaner man, and he vowed that one day he would kill the bully. A captain named Jarvis was at the tavern when the fight took place, and he actually laughed at the poor man's revengeful statement. Now, Jarvis knew that the larger man was of a detestable character, but the badly beat man's revengeful statement still made him laugh, he said. So some time went by, and Jarvis was converted to Christianity, and he came to know Jesus as his personal savior and friend. He no longer visited taverns. One night, while Jarvis was in Plymouth for an overnight business trip, he just could not sleep. He decided to walk around and to look at the closed shop windows. There was a park that housed the famous Plymouth courthouse clock, and he waited to hear the clock sound off the hours with what was said to be an unusual gong. As he stood around the decorated marble base, he noticed there another man staring at its peak. "I'm going to hang around until it shakes the whole base with 12 loud gongs," said the stranger. "I've never heard it strike," Jarvis replied. "I'm sure that from the size of those bells, it must really make quite a noise. I wonder how the poor folk around here can ever get used to it." Soon the first strike of the clock began. 1, 2, 3, 4. Jarvis, he moved away from the base a bit because the vibrations in his ears began to resound again after each note. He kept counting until 12, and then the strangest thing happened. The clock struck one more time. The clock struck 13. Jarvis asked the other man if he had heard anything unusual. "I was just thinking of asking you the same thing, but I was afraid that you might think I was a little loony," said the other tourist with a big smile. "You heard it strike 13 times, too, didn't you?" "Yes, I did," replied Jarvis. They both laughed, and they discussed the most unusual incident, and then they went their separate ways. Jarvis told a number of his friends about the incident right after returning home, but then he soon forgot all about it. Several weeks passed, and Jarvis again found that he was unable to sleep. All through the night, the scene of the clock striking that extra time passed through his mind. Then just before dawn, he felt a strong impression that he should go outside. The impression came to him 5 times, and each time there seemed to be a greater urgency that was pressed upon him to go downstairs and out of the front door. Why should I get out of this warm bed, get dressed, and go outside at this unearthly hour? He asked himself. Yet there was a force that took over his mind that he was to go outside. It's pitch dark out there, Jarvis told himself. If I go outside, what am I going to even be able to see? Finally, he got up, put on his clothes, and he went downstairs. He opened the front door and was surprised to see his groom and his horse saddled and bridled and ready to be mounted. "What's this?" he asked. "What are you doing out here with my horse at this hour?" "Sir," said his faithful long-time worker, "I know that you will find this very strange to accept, but I could not sleep. All through the night and up until an hour ago, I kept hearing some kind of mysterious voice telling me that you would be wanting the horse very early this morning. Since you had not given any orders like this, I tried to not pay any attention to it. But, sir, the strange sensation in my ears was like a human voice, and there was no one in the room. I even turned on the light to see if anyone was there. I hope that I haven't done anything wrong," he said. No, you haven't done anything wrong," said Jarvis. "As a matter of fact, I think that you did exactly the correct thing, the thing that I am going to do. I'm going to obey that same voice that you have been listening to." Jarvis, he mounted the horse, but before moving an inch or giving the first command, he prayed out loud. "Lord, some very strange things have happened in the last few weeks. First, the clock striking 13. Then my impression to go outside tonight, and my groom's instruction to get the horse saddled and bridled for me to ride. I believe that you are telling me to do something important. Please let the horse lead me to where you want me to go." Jarvis, he let loose of the reins, and he gave the horse a gentle nudge in the side. The horse started off at a healthy pace. It was strange to be sitting on top of the animal and not holding on to his reins. The horse, it headed down towards the riverside. "If he's taking me to the river, then this is all a big mistake," Jarvis said to himself. "There is only one ferry boat down there, and the first run doesn't start until after sunrise. No one will be there for another 2 or so hours." Nonetheless, the horse went right to the riverside, and there was the ferry boat, and standing on the ferry boat was the conductor himself. "I can't believe this," Jarvis said to himself. As he approached the ferry boat, he saw that the ramps had been lowered for passengers to board. "What are you doing down here so very, very early, when I've heard you say so many times that you love to stay in bed until the last minute, then quickly dress and run out of the house, eating your breakfast on the run?" "You're right, mate," replied the ferry boat conductor. "I love me sleep. But I had such a terrible dream where I had to run down and ferry a man and his horse across the river. I dream about taking people across the river all the time, but this dream was different. It was like if I didn't get down there, there was something terrible that was going to happen. I woke up from the dream. in a sweat and could not get back to sleep. I got the feeling that it wasn't just a dream. And I decided that if, when I got down there, and there wasn't anyone with a horse waiting to cross, I'd come back home. No one would know about it, and no one would think that I was crazy. I just got here about a minute ago, he said. So Jarvis, he led his horse up onto the ferry, and he prayed even harder for God to give him wisdom and strength to handle whatever his job was. Getting off on the other side of the river, Jarvis once again let the horse go his own way. The horse started an even faster pace. After what seemed to Jarvis as an eternity, they finally approached a large country town where it seemed not much was going on. Jarvis, he stopped a man who was walking away from the town, and he asked, "Sir, is anything of real importance going on in this town today?" "Well, I guess some folks think that it's important. There's a trial going on at the courthouse. Don't mean much to me, though," said the man. "What kind of trial?" Jarvis asked. "Oh, some no-gooder shot and killed another no-gooder. That's all," replied the man. Captain Jarvis, he went to the courthouse. He hitched his horse, and he walked in just as the judge was addressing the prisoner. The courthouse was crowded, so Jarvis stood up against the wall in the back. "Have you anything to say for yourself?" the judge asked the prisoner. The prisoner's back was to Jarvis, and he could not see his face. The prisoner quietly answered the judge, "Your Honor, I have nothing to say, except what I've said before. I am innocent of these charges. It is true that I disliked that old sot, even hated him after he beat me up in the tavern. A lot of people heard me tell him that I was going to kill him one day for what he did. But I was mad, hurt, and ashamed. Honestly, Judge, I did not kill him." The courtroom was hushed. It seemed as if everyone was on the accused man's side. Then the prisoner added something that shook Jarvis terribly. "Your Honor," said the prisoner, "I was not here the night of the killing. I was in Plymouth. There is one man who can witness to the fact that I wasn't here the midnight of the killing, because we stood and talked together about the Plymouth clock striking 13. The courtroom burst into laughter, and the judge slammed his gavel on the desk to quiet things down. "You say that you can prove that you didn't kill him because you were in Plymouth the night of his death with some man who talked with you when the clock struck 13. The audience laughed again at this. "Just a minute, Your Honor," Jarvis said as he walked up to the judge's desk and chair. "This man is telling the truth. I would like to be sworn in as a witness and friend of the court." In a matter of 30 minutes, the condemned man was said to be innocent and was set free. As Jarvis and the liberated man talked together outside of the courthouse, the stunned man asked him what had brought him to the trial. "Well, my friend," answered Jarvis, "some time ago I came to know the Lord as my personal Savior and friend. He redeemed me at Calvary. Now, through his mysterious intervention in the affairs and minds of myself, my groom, a ferry boat conductor, and my faithful old horse, God has given you redemption from a death sentence." The two men spent the remainder of the day discussing the plan of salvation And the freedman vowed that he would read the Bible and he would look into Christianity. 2 months later, Jarvis, he received a small note from a very happy and appreciative man, and it simply read, "Redeemed twice." I find stories like this faith-building. We have a mighty God who wants to be there for us, just like Jesus cared about his mother, Mary, and her worry about there not being wine there at the wedding feast. This same Jesus, he was caring for this falsely accused man, and he delivered him. Now, the lesson that I gleaned was, are we willing to be used for God's purpose, like Jarvis was, as well as his groom and that ferry boat conductor, even his horse? Are we willing to give ourselves fully to him, as the redeemed man was? I hope that you have enjoyed this little talk. If you have, I would just encourage you to click on that subscribe button. I want to thank all of you who have already subscribed. Your support means much to me. I want to thank you for listening, and I'm just wishing God's blessings to each one of you.